Hi, friends. As a kid, I thought one of the most interesting Bible stories was in Genesis 32. Now, in this story, Jacob is about to go meet his older brother Esau, who he had tricked out of his birthright. And he thought that Esau wanted to kill him and his whole family. Now, I imagine he wanted some time to just mentally prepare himself, so he sent his family over the stream ahead of time so that he could just have some space to do that. And in that space, Jacob wrestles with God. And I grew up in kids' church, and I remembered that song, "My God is so big, so strong, and so mighty, there's nothing my God cannot do." And I was like, why would anyone want to wrestle with God? Because obviously God will win. It doesn't make sense. But now as an adult, I get it. Jacob was in a place of desperation. Have you ever been in a place of desperation where you're just out of options and you're desperate for God to show up? Jacob was desperate, and in that place, he wrestled with God, and he said, "I will not let go until you bless me." I can remember a moment a few years ago where I just felt so low, and all I wanted to do was quit. I didn't see how things would get any better. It was a Saturday night, late, and my husband and I, we were completely exhausted. We had church the next morning, and so we put the kids to bed, and all we wanted to do was just sleep. But in that moment, before bed, we prayed together, and we prayed that God would intervene. And Richie went to bed because he had to preach the next morning, but something in me just said, I can't give up this easily. I have to keep going. And so I was in that place of desperation. I couldn't leave. I couldn't let go. So I stayed up to pray, and I was willing to pray all night if that's what it took. So I went to war. I battled, and I prayed, and I wrestled with God, just begging him to show up and to intervene. And I just prayed my guts out. I was so broken and so desperate. And about 4 a.m. in the morning, something in the atmosphere radically shifted. All of a sudden, I was filled with the most unbelievable joy and hope and just confidence in God and in His greatness and in His goodness. In that moment, I went from the lowest low to the highest high, and I was so excited to see what God was going to do that next day. So I went to bed, woke up 2 hours later, and normally I would be completely exhausted, but it was as if I had just consumed 10 energy drinks, but it was all Jesus. So here's what I want to point out in that story in Genesis. Jacob wrestled with God, and what God didn't do was show up and take the whole situation away. Instead, God blessed him and gave him a new name. God changed him. God didn't change the situation, but God changed him, and that changed everything. Just like in my situation, God didn't make everything that was bad disappear, but He changed me, and that changed everything. It made all the difference. Sometimes God allows us to go through hardship to get us to a place of desperation. And in that place of desperation, we are fully open to whatever God wants to do in us. And that's what the Christian life is all about. That transformation, the metamorphosis, and the changing of old wine into new wine. Now, it's not bad to ask God to change your situation. Jesus teaches His disciples to pray, "Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil." So that word temptation could also be translated trials. Lead us not into trials, but deliver us from evil. None of us want trials, and it's okay to pray that God would keep us from them and deliver us out of them. But we can be confident that when we do go through those trials, we can cry out to God in desperation, and we can watch Him show up. So today I want you to try this one thing. Whatever struggle or trial you're going through today, whether it's financial or marital or relationships or loneliness or sickness, whatever it is, it's okay to pray, "God, would you deliver me from this?" But along with that, would you pray, "God, would you change me?" You can pray, "God, change the situation," but alongside of that, pray, "God, would you change me through this. Whatever you want to do through this situation, work in me to make me look more like you. Now imagine being able to look back in the future and see that God brought you through this situation and he made you more like him. He shaped you through it all. Imagine being able to look back and see that whatever fire you went through, God was with you the whole way. Imagine being able to face every struggle in the future with confidence because you know I serve a God who shows up. Imagine being able to be full of that joy and that hope no matter what kind of trial you face. So I'll leave you with one of my favorite verses from the Passion Translation, Psalm 33:20. The Lord alone is our radiant hope. We trust in him with all our hearts. His wraparound presence strengthens us. So may the Lord strengthen you today, whatever you're going through, and may he work in you to shape you into his image. Thanks for watching, friends.